All right, this is the first of our positional previews. We're going to start with cornerback. And I think I'm going to try to make these a bit unique in that I'm going to call them position 360s, and we'll spend some time talking about last year. So we'll do a bit of a position review to sort of set the stage before we do the actual preview part of it. Most of these I'll have a guest join me. The first few will just be me solo, and that'll be the case this time with cornerbacks. Before I dive into cornerback, want to shout out our sponsor, Ready Vets, opening in the Taylor's Greenville area. One cool thing is with them sponsoring this program, we're going to be able to do live streams. So this will be this is kind of a test case of it, but I'd love to have your comments both now in the live chat, but also comments just in the normal video comments after this is recorded and posted. Let me know what you think of live streams, how I can execute it, how you'd like to see it done. Probably not going to be feasible for me to do it weekly at a specific time. My schedule is a little bit too much flow there, but let me know what you think there. Ready Vets, just so you know, is if you're a pet owner in the upstate, they offer immediate walk-in care when your pet can't wait, open 7 days a week, and owned by 2 Clemson grads. I'll tell you more about them in future videos, but very thankful that they were willing to jump on and start sponsoring this channel. So let's talk about the cornerback position at Clemson. So I think to start, instead of just going back to last year, it helps to go 2 years back all the way to 2022 and just say, hey, let's remember how bad it was, because it was a big turnaround last year. 2 years ago, Clemson secondary was not good, and the cornerbacks in particular struggled. They got torched against Louisiana Tech, and then who can forget the 51-45 game that they won in Winston-Salem against Wake Forest? Sam Hartman threw for 337 yards and 6 touchdowns in that game. So not good. But it was the last play of that game when, they had really hit rock bottom in that game, and it was the last play where they started pulling out of that, right? Nate Wiggins got beat a lot in that one. I don't know if he was 100% healthy, but he had a rough day, and at the very end, he had the game-winning pass breakup. Clemson wins, and you start seeing him and that secondary rapidly improve throughout that season. And then, you come into 2023 thinking, hey, Nate Wiggins for like half a season was awesome. How good could he be now? And he was that lockdown elite number 1 corner that Clemson fans were hoping he would be. So that sort of half season of that level of play just kept getting better, right? So as a freshman, his PFF grade was 68. And then it went up to 78, mostly because of how he finished 2022. And then in 2023, really elite at 83. And of course, he left as the 30th overall pick to the Baltimore Ravens. So a little glimpse of top-notch player development there. He played 493 snaps. He was one of the stars of the defense. This is Nate Wiggins. It was him, Jeremiah Trotter, and some of the defensive tackles, Peter Woods, Tyler Davis, Ruka Roro. Those were the stars. So Nate Wiggins, among them. Also, Sheridan Jones, he used his COVID waiver to return for last season, 2023. He was solid, played 329 snaps, 71 PFF grade. Not elite, wasn't drafted, but a good solid player that helped Clemson. And then the thought was, behind those two, you have Jaden Lucas, Toriano Pride coming into their own. But they were limited, partially by injuries, especially in Jaden Lucas' case, but also to some extent, a little bit of struggle. Jaden Lucas only played 185 snaps. Toriano Pride only played 150. So you would think that means depth was a big issue last year. Fortunately, it really wasn't because of 2 freshmen, Avieon Terrell and Shelton Lewis. Avieon played 374 snaps with an awesome 77 PFF grade. Shelton Lewis only 153 snaps, but was coming on towards the end of the year. 70 PFF grade, still really solid. And so because of them, you had kind of a 6-pack of guys who actually had decent depth, where you thought it might be a problem when Lucas and Pride were so limited. So overall, it was a banner year for Mike Reed's group, and for my money, Mike Reed is, to my knowledge, at least the best position coach at the cornerback position in the country. So then you look at who's leaving, who's coming. I mentioned Nate Wiggins was drafted first round. Sheridan Jones also departing, exhausted his eligibility. Toriano Pride, he only played 150 snaps. it would have been more this season, but probably not as a starter because Avieon Terrell had passed him. So he transferred to Missouri. So you lose those three and you replace them with three true freshmen, Corey and Gibson, Tavoy Fegan, and Ashton Hampton. So obviously, anytime you lose a first-round pick, probably going to have some regression. I think a little bit is fair to expect, but you do feel good about Avieon Terrell, 374 snaps last year, and he was good across. It's just a big enough sample size. Obviously anyone can have a sophomore slump, or any sophomore can, but I think you feel pretty good that he played well over a good sample size. Conversely, Shelton Lewis was good, much smaller sample size, only 153 snaps. And one thing that's a little concerning there is that last game when he was kind of Nate Wiggins did not play in the Gator Bowl. Shelton Lewis was thrust into a bigger role, and he really struggled. Probably his worst game, 44.8 PFF grade against Kentucky. Kentucky threw for 307 yards. Obviously, not all on him, but that was the worst he looked. Some risk there due to small sample size and a bad game to end it. Some risk there of a sophomore slump, but Mike Reed, of course, makes you feel good about avoiding that. Now, you have Avieon Terrell, you have Shelton Lewis. Then you look, Jaden Lucas was a 5-star, and he comes back, 5-star from Malden, South Carolina. He now comes back, and he just needs to stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, now you've got a 3-pack of guys you feel good about with him, with Shelton Lewis, and, of course, Avieon Terrell. Now, depth can be a bit of an issue here, right? Because there's only 3 guys. We just talked about how last year there was really almost 6 if you count Lucas and Pride. So depth could be an issue. Would be ideal if Miles Oliver, a guy who's not a freshman anymore, could start contributing at this point. That was a take that I was not particularly high on at the time. It wasn't a very highly rated recruit. I think it was just him. Georgia Tech was the other offer. But he's also struggled with injuries, so maybe he can contribute. That would be big. Otherwise, you're looking at some really young players. Brandon Strozer, probably the top candidate, I would imagine, for the next in line in terms of depth. He's a redshirt freshman. Otherwise, it's probably true freshmen, Tavoy Fegan, Corey and Gibson, and Ashton Hampton. So overall, maybe some regression. You're losing really elite first-round player in Nate Wiggins, and not a first-round player who was picked on potential, but a guy who actually gave you that production. So some regression is probably reasonable. You also lose Sheridan Jones, but really well coached, very talented young group. Avieon Terrell has what it takes to be a number 1 lockdown corner. We'll be looking for him to fill the role that Nate Wiggins had last year. And then Shelton Lewis and Jaden Lucas will kind of battle for the next starter spot. I imagine with injuries and how they play out, all 3 of them will sort of be co-starters more or less, with Avieon Terrell starting anytime he's healthy. But I think that's the trio you're looking at. And then just, they need to stay healthy. There's too many injuries. They definitely could struggle. But overall, I think this is a very talented, well-coached group, just a little young and a little thin. So I wouldn't put it at the top of Clemson's strengths necessarily, but barring injury, shouldn't be a weakness. Definitely be sure, let me know what you think of Clemson's cornerbacks heading into 2024. Would love to hear your comments. So leave those in the video comments below. Also, let me know what you think of live streams and how I can execute those in a way you'd enjoy. And lastly, please like the video if you enjoy this. And of course, if you're not already, please subscribe to this channel. Thank you to our sponsor, ReadyVets. Be sure to check them out. Thank you. And as always, go Tigers.